Good evening, everyone. This is another edition of Bluegrass Sports Guys. I'm Mike Stubblefield. I'm up here in northern Kentucky. I'm joined tonight by our regular David Henley. He's down in Oldham County. And then tonight we have a special guest with us. Rob Cross couldn't be with us tonight. And unfortunately, Rob's father passed away, 85 years old, long illness. But Rob couldn't be with us. And Chris couldn't be with us not because middle school regional championships down in Nashville where he lives. So I reached out, went into my Rolodex, and surprised Henley with his old colleague from back in the day, David Hartman. David Hartman is, I don't know how to describe him. He was an assistant. He still is an assistant principal at Holmes High School, where David Henley and I both coached. Went to Holmes, and now he's kind of a Northern Kentucky basketball aficionado. Just how would you describe yourself? Jack of all trades, master
A,
of
re-
maybe one or two,
a Renaissance man.
Renaissance man.
Yeah, I
Okay.
can talk a little about everything. You want to talk about Bath and Body Candles? We can talk about Bath and Body Candles. You want to talk about high school sports, college sports, pro sports? We got it all. We got it all. You
Well,
want to talk about fine writing utensils like the Pilot G7? We can talk about fine writing utensils. I
hey,
think Dave.
speaking
Point
of
seven,
speaking of
point seven tip.
speaking of fine writing utensils, so this pen is my favorite. It is the Signa Semi. I'm too old. I can't read, and I got my readers on because I pulled a Ralphie from Christmas Story the other night. I was taking a shower, and I guess my glasses fell on the floor. I had them on the toilet seat, and they must have fell off when I grabbed my towel. And then next thing I know, crunch! I stepped on my glasses. So I got these readers on, and they're a couple years old. So I guess my vision has changed, and I don't see very well. But anyway, this is my favorite pen right there. And I don't have
Yeah,
very good handwriting
hold
anyway.
that up a little higher so we can see it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
nah,
so
Very
yeah.
very fine tip, which is what I like. I don't like a big line or whatever. But yeah, I like the uniball here.
yeah, G7's the way to go. Ain't that right, Coach Henley?
That's the best in the business.
She said,
Blue ink
what brand is that?
Pilot.
pilot.
Pilot. All right. And is this what you guys used as a staff at Homes? Like it was kind of your inside kind of.
Yeah,
We always
autograph.
tested out ink pens to see which ones wrote the best and the finest. Tim Sullivan got into that, and now Tim Sullivan is kind of a pen aficionado guy.
Yeah, so
I'm just surprised Hartman doesn't use quill and ink.
well, papyrus, since the tariffs have gone into effect, have really skyrocketed. So getting papyrus has become a little bit more difficult to come by. But I thought
And
about dabbling in.
potash too.
Is that potatoes?
Well,
That's what Chuck Grassley's freaking out about, though. The
Uh,
potash.
that, yeah. So no, but yeah, I might have to dabble in a fountain pen every now and again. But the G7 rolls right along.
I may have to try the old G7. May have to give it a try and see, and then I'll give
It's
y'all.
not. It's not good for left-handers, though.
Well, I'm left-handed. I write.
Well, I don't know if that'll be a good choice for you because it's kind of an ink gel.
Oh,
It's a gel, so it'll smear if you don't, depending on what kind of surface you write on. If you write on like a birthday card, Christmas card, you got to let it dry off. You got to shake it like a Polaroid picture before you close the card because it'll smear.
oh,
Stubbs, you might just need to stick with a Dixon Ticonderoga, a pencil, and be done with it.
Yeah.
yeah.
Or
Well,
start writing like this.
the life of a lefty. I write and eat left-handed. I do everything else right-handed. So, and my wife is the same way. But our daughter is left-handed from head to toe. Like she
Mm.
does everything left-handed. So we're kind of
So
on a
you're
not.
both amphibious?
Yeah, amphibious, whatever you
And
want to call it.
that's what my son is. He shoots left-handed, dribbles right-handed, throws right-handed, kicks left foot. Yeah, like Coach Henley said, he's amphibious.
But I always used to tell kids that the one of the best ways to develop the use of your offhand is to do things in your normal life with your offhand. So if you ate right-handed, eat left-handed. If you brush your teeth right-handed, brush your teeth left-handed. Just little things like that. Um, I always felt was a really good way to develop the use of your non-dominant hand. But anyway,
Ricky said Ricky going to throw left and Ricky going to bat right. You know, you don't see that very much though. You don't see many people who throw left and bat right, but you see a lot of the other.
the problem is you have that you have your throwing arm exposed
Hmm.
when you're batting.
Unless you're Joaquin Andahar and you're one tough Dominican.
Yeah,
Joaquin Handar. Wow. You dropping that one way back.
He
walking
used to
in
say he.
hard. So that was the first year I ever started following the Cardinals was that year. That was 1985. I kind of got into sports a little bit later than some other kids did, but that was the very first year that I really started following sports. That was Villanova. That was the '85 Bears, and that was the Cardinals Royals. And so yeah, Walking Indahar and John Tudor were both 20 game winners on that
Yeah,
team. And
Andahar started Game 7 and just completely lost his
no, no,
mind
no,
and got thrown out.
he didn't start Game 7. John,
I
John
thought he did.
John Tudor, who had a sub 2 ERA, his ERA was like 180,
Yeah,
1.85 or something, started Game 7, so we felt good about it. And then he just got torched. And then he got taken out of the game, and he broke his hand. He punched a wall and broke his hand. And so they put him walking into her, and then calls didn't go his way, and he flipped his lid and got kicked out of the game. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Punching wall. I tell kids in school all the time, walls and lockers are undefeated. You ain't gonna beat them.
undefeated.
yeah. But anyway, so the big game leading all week was Kentucky Arkansas. That was Cal's return to Rupp Arena. And boy, did he have a big time coming back to Rupp Arena. He comes out with an 89-79 victory. They're a 1-6 team. They're the worst shooting team in the conference, but right on cue, they come into Rupp Arena and shoot the lights out. Dave, did you see it? Hartman, did you see it?
Yes, unfortunately, I watched it unfold.
Yeah,
It was it was ugly, but you know what? They had more talent. They got more talent than Kentucky's got.
they have more talent, more athleticism. I think even without Boogie Flan, um, and John L. Davis finally started to earn his NIL money because he was like the biggest target in the portal. And I went to Arkansas. I hadn't done much all year, and then the other night he plays his rear end off. They all did. All those kids did. DJ Wagner had 17 points in the second half. Uh, Big Z probably hit the biggest shot of the game when Kentucky was back within 6, and it was deep in the shot clock, and he hit a three. And then Adu Thiero was just a freaking beast. He's probably the one kid that I wish would have worked out where he had stayed. Um, he's just one of those guys that's just relentless, like just attacks the basket and is just fierce. Henley, what'd you think? If you watched it, did you watch it?
Yeah, I was there. I watched it, and I wasn't at the game, but yeah, I watched it. I talk about it all the time. Not all the time, but when Boogie Flan's out there, he dominates the ball, and you got 9 guys watching him dribble, and that's just nobody likes to play with guys like that. And he's an incredible talent, and I think we talked about it earlier in the year. He pretty much won the Miami game for them,
Mm-hmm.
just on sheer talent and going and getting a bucket or two. But people don't like playing with it. It goes back. Derrick Rose, the year the Bulls didn't sign anybody in the free agency because they were saving their cap money for the following year to try to get 2 stars to go with Derrick Rose. But nobody wants to play with a shoot first point guard, and they couldn't. I think they got Luol Deng, um, but Boogie Flan's not out there dominating the ball. They played like a team. They moved the ball. They played team ball stuff. They played team ball.
They did play team ball.
And you even take it a step further, and we were talking about it on a text the other day. Zakai Ziegler wasn't out there for Tennessee. dominating the ball and just dribble, 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 dribble. I mean, I don't know how many times I've seen that guy just dribble into the lane and dribble around, dribble under the basket, dribble about out top, and 9 guys are just watching him dribble. He didn't play. They moved the ball and they beat Florida by 20. So, I'm not here to say you don't go after the best players like Boogie Flan, but man, you get the ball moving in a basketball game. And DJ Wagner, I've never seen him play that well. That's the best I've ever seen him play.
Yeah,
Yeah, just
because it is the best
I
he's
was
ever played.
it, I was going to make the same point as Dave mentioned, because pretty much one of the criticisms that Cal had over the last couple of years when he was at Kentucky is he had pieces that didn't fit. Aside from not playing his best players, you talk about Dillingham and Shepard, and from running guys out there like Edwards and Wagner when you had the most efficient scoring offense with Reeves and Dillingham and Shepard, and then you just never played them together. Is that Arkansas had three ball dominant players? They had Boogie Flan, DeJuan Wagner, who probably doesn't is more the one, not a two, playing off the ball, and John L. Davis. So you take off Fland, Wagner's back at the point. And then Davis can handle the ball a little bit more, but they just shot ridiculously well. And but they're physical. They got good talent. They got good talent. That's the thing that's been the knock on Calipari is if I'm an Arkansas fan, I would be pissed off watching them play like they played against Kentucky, and you look at their record and you're like, it's
That and that's the thing about Arkansas. That might be the last game they win this year in the conference. You know, um, it was a big stage for them, and they wanted it more. And they played better than Kentucky. They, especially in the second half, they dominated Kentucky in the second half.
yeah. I mean Kentucky's
Kentucky, well, I mean, they don't have a point guard. They don't have a healthy Lamont Butler neutralizes DJ Wagner. But that's part of the game. Injuries is part of the game, and you gotta overcome it. I just hope that the injuries that Kentucky has had is not not too far to overcome. But it's also his first year. This is a roster that he had to assemble in 3 months' time. So I think he's exceeded expectations on that. But going forward, without Lamont, if Lamont Butler doesn't come back this year, they're going to have some problems. I mean, they turn right around. And from a practical standpoint, everything else aside, losing that was a bad loss because
yeah.
in this league, we've talked about it before. You have to hold serve at home, and especially when you're playing a 1-6 team, you have to hold serve at home. And they lost, and they got to go to Ole Miss tomorrow. They could have been 5-3 in the conference going to Ole Miss, but now they're 4-4, middle of the pack. But
Nobody's gonna catch Auburn. I think Auburn's going to run away with it. I'm not sure how many. What's Alabama have? Two losses or one loss?
they lost to Duke. That's it, I think.
I mean, just in the conference itself, though. I don't think
They're undefeated in the conference.
Auburn is, but Alabama is Alabama undefeated in the conference too.
No, Alabama lost at home to Ole Miss.
That's right.
Missouri beat them. Who beat
Uh,
somebody else? Beat them. I
I
don't
don't
know.
know, but yeah, it's Auburn, Alabama. I think nationally, it's Auburn, Alabama, and a lot of people saying Duke, but the problem with Duke is you can't really get a good evaluation of them because the ACC's so down.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
So when I look at Kentucky right now, the game against Tennessee, Jackson Robinson was able to score over top of Zakai Ziegler. He could get shots off.
He
He couldn't get
dominated
shot.
Kyle Ziegler because
Yeah, he couldn't get shots off against Wagner was hounding him, so he only took 9 shots. And the problem with aside from defense and a physical presence that Lamont Butler gives you, Butler was only one of two Kentucky players that get paint touches off the bounce. So I mean, now you're relying on Otega Oweh, and they're just not getting anything off the bounce, and so teams are pushing them out further and further and further, and they're not punishing teams off slipping screens, backdoor cuts, things like that. But it's going to be a work in progress for sure. If Butler's not back.
yeah, Mario Williams dominated. Mario Williams was really good, but he only played 25 minutes. Also, speaking of minutes, I wonder why Trent Noah didn't get any run. He played all those minutes against Tennessee and played well, and then got no minutes against Arkansas. And I don't think the the matchup. I mean, Tennessee, big and athletic, long, and Arkansas is kind of the same way. I just kind of was surprised that he didn't get any minutes at all. Travis Perry got minutes and didn't play well, but he,
Well, Noah played the four at Tennessee, so with Carr back, that's probably cutting into his time between Almanor
yeah,
and Carr. So, but do you give him run at three?
yeah, yeah, probably. Yeah, I didn't realize that he played the four and played a lot of Carr's minutes. Um, but it wasn't a great week for Kentucky basketball. They lost that game. Well, I mean, they beat Tennessee, but they lost that game. But then the other one was they lost out on Caleb Wilson, who's going to North Carolina. I guess he got the better NIL deal, and so
Think he'll change his mind if they get rid of Hubert Davis?
I don't know.
Because that's going to happen.
Well,
That's going to happen.
You
at,
think so?
at the end of
Yeah,
the end of the day, it's not about the playing for a coach anymore, though, right?
that's true. Yes, it
It's
is.
it's about that
I mean,
NIL
no,
money.
you're right. I agree. It's
As
about the
one of
money.
my other friends said, does Hubert Davis not have cable TV? Did he not watch Duke play? What they do? I bet I didn't watch any of it. I was too busy watching the beginning of the Royal Rumble before the um, Duke North Carolina game because it was Seth Greenberg had to make the call on them going to North Carolina and Duke rather than going to Arkansas, Kentucky for game day. So
That was a terrible decision. Terrible decision. Um, I mean, Duke was going to beat. They were going to beat them by 20, 25 points. It was not going to be a game, and then you had, of course, Kentucky. The Kentucky getting beat storyline got squashed about 30 minutes because of the Luca Anthony Davis trade, which is probably the biggest trade I've seen in a long time. And I don't even watch NBA. I'm not even that interested. Henley, you used to like watching NBA. Do you watch it anymore?
Dude, I don't know if anybody watches anymore.
I don't even think Bud watches it much anymore.
He doesn't. I mean, I
why is
it's
that?
To me,
I
it's
just
just
tired of that. They don't. To me, refereeing is just ruining basketball at all levels. I would not want to referee. You couldn't pay me enough money to referee, but they're just ruining basketball, man. They don't call anything, and I don't. I just don't get me started on referees, Hartman.
to me I think the NBA is just I don't know. I just don't enjoy. Look, I like watching free flowing, high scoring basketball,
Where
but
do you watch that at? Because I ain't seen a whole heck of a lot of that anywhere.
well, in the NBA, used
High school basketball has gotten worse. High school basketball has become worse than um, college basketball. I mean, for a while there, I thought the NBA was doing a much better job of letting them free flowing, but I can still see Henley on the sideline telling the referee he's got his hand on his hip when he's driving to the basket. Now in high
I
school, you
just
see two hands on drivers, and they're not calling it. Now I had a coach tell me they think that the reason that is because they don't want to get to 5 fouls in a quarter. It keeps the game moving.
so it's a
I don't know.
it's catch 22. You can't win because in basketball it's impossible to officiate because you could call a foul every play down the court. So
I just
do you
you probably could,
do you tell
and if
teams
that's
like,
what it
hey,
takes, kids will figure it out. They
do
don't
you,
want to go on a bench. They'll figure it out.
yeah, but do you tell teams, hey, we're going to call it tight, and then you end up shooting 80 foul shots, you know, in an effort to clean up the contact, or do you
You
just
know,
say, the heck with it, we're not calling it, and you keep the game going, but there's so much contact.
I was when I was at home last time, I found my dad's scorebook from a 1975 team that won a region. They scored over 100 points 11 times as high school basketball. 11 times with no three-point shot. And there were a lot of those games, there were 50 and 60 free throws.
I think a
But
lot of
I
that.
mean, they scored, man. They
Well, that
played
wasn't,
basketball and they called fouls, and you only had two officials.
yeah, I
It
think
just
different
I
errors
don't.
that makes it difficult. I just think that it's just gotten obviously kids are much more athletic but like even now you see it even in a college game, you see it in a high school game. Officials, Dave would drive in, Mike, you have to crap out of him. He puts the shot up, if it goes in, they don't call it. If it doesn't go in, they blow the whistle. And
Hmm.
you're seeing this all over the place. They just blowing late whistles. I'm like, wasn't it a foul in the first place? I mean, why wait to
Well,
see if it goes in?
I
I
remember
just think they're trying to get the games over with.
I remember this is back when I lived in Tennessee. I went to the every year before the season started. They had an officials and the head of the whoever the officials were, did like a symposium or whatever, and he talked about just that thing about officials blowing because you would have officials that would wait and see if the ball went in, and he said a coach yelled at him one time, and he's like, "Well, he got what he wanted." He's like, "He got the basket." He's like, "He didn't get what he wanted. What he wanted was the basket and the free throw." You know, so
Hmm.
I will say this, and I will keep saying this. I'm glad that they got rid of all the most of the charging and offensive fouls, with the exception of some of the extending your arm and that kind of thing. I'm glad they've kind of rooted all that out. Although you can make an argument that contributes to a lot of the physical play because guys just go in there and instead of taking a charge, you're just going to get hacked. Um, but anyway, so what about? So here's something I wanted to bring up, and this happened a couple weeks ago. Kentucky played Vanderbilt and lost. Vanderbilt stormed the court, and I didn't realize this till a couple days after that if you storm the court, now there's a fine. It's a $500,000 fine, but the money goes to the opponent. So Kentucky got a $500,000 check because Vanderbilt stormed the court. Now, what do you guys think about that? I did not. Hartman, did you know that was a rule? I think this is the first year it's gone into effect.
I didn't know that until after that Vanderbilt game. So I guess that was just a $500,000 donation to their NIL budget. But
Yeah,
that's what their AD was pleading with each of everybody in the student section. Uh,
the AD was literally down on the floor, and she was trying to talk to as many individual students as she could. And they had security down there, but at the end of the day, security can't do nothing. They can't restrain people because it's going to be a hazard for them. But I don't know how you can keep kids from not storming the court. I guess you could maybe get the cameras out, do round up 25 or 30 of them and give them citations for trespassing, um, or something. I don't know. Maybe the fear of getting getting rode up or getting a citation would deter you, but I don't think it would do that much. But
Go to in school suspension.
in school
Hey,
suspension,
in my best Cliff Clavin voice, I could say, they call them cagers because back in the old days,
mhm,
basketball teams used to play inside a cage,
they did.
in a cage, surrounded by fencing, so we could go back to putting cages around the courts, there, and we call them cagers again.
Yeah,
Problem solved.
yeah, that is a little known fact. That was why they were called cagers because they played in cages. So they may have to go back to that. But oh,
so enlighten me on that. They played in
Huh?
cages. I need
yeah,
you to
Yeah, a lot of the gyms had like fencing around to keep people from throwing stuff,
kind of
and
like
I think part of it was there were so many balconies that they put the fences up to keep fans from falling over and from knocking when the other team shot the ball on the end where you had to, well, like
yeah.
Hartman's at that balcony, they keep the fans from reaching over and slapping the ball, from going to the
really.
back. That's why they used to, yeah. I
I've
mean,
never.
there were
I don't
a
think I've ever seen a
plethora,
picture. I've
there
never seen a
were
picture
a
of
Well,
it.
plethora of reasons.
hit your Google button real quick, and you'll find a bunch of them.
And
Yeah,
you know what else it says? Think of all the money in college sports. $500,000 because college students run on the floor.
Well, then, and then
$500,000.
the next time it's $1 million.
I mean, think about how much money, and that's Vanderbilt. I mean, they ain't putting 100,000 in, whatever their football stadium's name is, Jay Cutler Field or whatever it is. I don't know. They have anybody ever any good in Vanderbilt football besides Jay Cutler? He's kind of a weirdo anyway, but
Diego Pavia.
Ray Davis.
it, Pavia, he's their quarterback now, isn't he?
Yeah.
Like his, isn't he like his
Because
11th team or something?
he just petitioned. I guess when he the one that they used as a uh, petition to say that your junior college years don't count
Yep.
JUCO,
towards
yeah.
your
Yeah, he won that suit. So that's going to really change college athletics too. If you say, "Hey, junior college doesn't count." Um,
Hart, did you see the guy for St. Mary's? He was the 2019-20 freshman of the year. This is his 6th year. The big guy for St. Mary's.
but speaking of storming the court, and people always associate storming the court with Kentucky being on the road. But do you remember the last time the Kentucky fans stormed the court? It has happened.
It's him. Was it in Rupp?
It was at Rupp, yes.
I don't know when they
It,
beat Villanova on Super Bowl Sunday in 1981 or so. I don't know.
they beat. It was during the Billy Gillispie era. It was his second year, and of course, maybe it was his first year, but of course they were struggling, and they beat Vandy. Remember, Vandy had those good teams back then, and I guess they were so desperate, for a win. They beat Vanderbilt and stormed the court. Back that would have been like 09, 08, somewhere in there. I can't remember what year it was.
have you
Yeah.
have you all partaken in a court storming?
I
No.
never have.
High school, college, none.
I never have. You probably have by yourself when you're in high school.
Oh my gosh.
Or
You
a
and that
field or
fella,
a field storming.
Yeah, I
you and
could.
that, you and that fella at Highlands, the guy from
Yeah,
Holmes, the Chinese guy from Holmes.
yeah. I was gonna drop that story. Year 1988, the year of our Lord. Highlands was number one in the region. We had Jack Jennings, who averaged like 30 something points a game. We were over there playing and tight game. Highlands gyms are little. If you've been in it, it's tiny. And Jack came down, pulled up from the foul line, shot it, hit off the back of the iron, back of the flange, and hit off the flange. Came right back to me, stuck it in at the horn one. So we all ran on the court, and I'm out there doing the stomping on the bird and everything else. Giving the Fort Thomas people a little hell. And out of the corner of my eye, I see my friend Joe Wang being cuffed and taken off the court. He ran over and was doing some kind of jig in front of their student section, but they used to have like carpet mats around it was in the middle of the winter on the side of the court, and he tripped on that carpet and fell into the stands. So they thought that he was going after somebody, but he just tripped. So like the next day, they had a report in the paper. I got a picture of it somewhere. And Fort Thomas police were calling him like the king of Siam. They were trying to go after his citizenship and everything. So there was like a homeless parent that had like a good lawyer or whatever, and it all got dropped. It was ridiculous, but I can still remember Joe walking off that court in cuffs. I'm like, they got Joe. So
I know a guy. So I know a guy. Not court storming, but it was a football field storming, and his son was down there, and they tore the goalpost down, and the goalpost came down and hit him on top of the head and paralyzed him. So yeah, I
Dang.
mean those things happen. So it's just you go at it. You go at it on your own risk, at your own risk, I guess. You don't get. My thing is, I'm just waiting for the day when some kid that's 6'9", 6'10", does the who's the guy that hit Rudy Tomjanovich in the jaw?
Kermit Washington.
Kermit. There's going to be a kid that gets a Kermit Washington one of these days,
well,
and it's going to have his face permanently rearranged.
you
Uh,
had what was it the Filipowski from Duke? Kid ran into
Yeah.
him. They tried to
Was it
make it like
Wake,
it was
wasn't it?
they tried to make it like it was the kid's fault, but the Filipowski kind of pushed him.
yeah,
Is he playing in the NBA?
I
I'm
just
sure he's somewhere.
I
I
forgot
haven't.
I'm sure he drafted. I don't know.
I forgot all about him. Speaking of the NBA, we were talking about the Luca Anthony Davis trade a little bit. I did. I've been reading about all of that, and I think Dallas got to the point where they were just kind of tired of Luca. So I don't know how he's going to fit in with the Lakers because I think his weight and everything has ballooned up. And there was that incident last year where he was drinking a beer in the locker room after the game, and Michael Finley, who's direct president or I don't know what his title is, but he saw it and came in and took it from him. So I think they're growing concerned about his conditioning, his discipline. Of course, he can play, man. He can flat out play, but I think a lot of that is is on the
Yeah, I
mind.
saw a lot of the stuff online on Twitter, and I mean, there are a lot of Dallas people, fans. They were glad to see him go. I
Yeah,
mean, I was shocked. I was shocked. I thought, because I mean, to
Yeah,
me, on the surface, because as little as I watch the NBA, Davis is always hurt. I mean, he's a heck of a player, but I thought, man, Dallas is probably going to be pretty upset. But there are a lot of their fans. I mean, it was both ways, but I was surprised how many were happy to see him
yeah.
go.
I think it surprised me. Like Mr. You, I don't watch it day in day out. Kind of watch it here and there, but it seemed like Dallas could have got a lot more than what they did. But and then they said Anthony Davis is 31. I'm like, dang on, he seems like he's been there forever.
yeah.
He's 31, but and then I think Utah didn't like Utah get two first round picks in the deal or something like that.
I think so. I don't know. I didn't realize it was a three-team deal, but yeah. Of course, the Lakers are always known for having someone that's a generational talent and an icon, and they're hanging. I guess they're going to hang their hat on Luca for the next few years. Whenever LeBron decides he's going to be done. So, but yeah. So looking ahead to college basketball this week, not a lot of top 25 stuff. Tomorrow's Kentucky and Ole Miss. You got Marquette and St. John's. You got which is Patino, who has turned around St. John's and got them where they are, and the same thing can be said for Marquette with Shaka Smart. You've got Vandy, Florida. Vandy going to Florida, which Florida, did you see them the other day? Did you see them play Tennessee? They scored 44 points. they they had a game this year where they scored 100 against Kentucky at Rupp, and they scored 44 against Tennessee.
Is Clayton hurt bad?
He, I don't know what his status is. He was kind of coming in and out of the game, but he was not 100%.
He's a
So
big difference for them. I mean, he's huge.
yeah, he's good. I think he's the best guard. I mean, maybe between him and Mark Sears, I give him a little bit of a nod over Mark Sears because he's a little bit bigger. But yeah, man, he's good. But you got Vandy in Florida. Wednesday you got Missouri going to Tennessee. So we'll see if Zakai Ziegler gets back in. Although I think they're a better team without him on the floor. Uh, Friday you got St. John's and UConn at UConn. So you got Rick going against crazy Danny Hurley. So and then, of course, Kentucky finally gets a game they could probably manage on Saturday, but you never know. This year, they play South Carolina at home. So, um,
One thing about St. John's is Patino's got a pretty gaudy record right now. His Big East schedule's backloaded.
mhm.
He's got
Yeah,
to
they play
play.
all the good teams now, don't they?
Yeah, their schedule's pretty backloaded. And we got Marquette and UConn and the Big East. So Xavier's kind of fought their way back to the bubble. So we could talk about Cincinnati. I know Henley's really intrigued to talk about Cincinnati, or we can talk about Louisville. I mean, Pat Kelsey done a heck of a job. So
You know what's funny is like it seems like every time someone in the crowd at the UK Arkansas game when they showed somebody in the crowd, every one of them go. I mean,
Yeah,
playing Arkansas, and a little kid in the background behind Jimmy Dykes is going.
yeah, that has gained
It's,
momentum over the years as the L's down has
I
gained
mean, they're not even
momentum.
playing Louisville.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, you got the L's down, and it seems like Louisville fans are sensitive to that, but they're not as sensitive as Texas fans are to the horns down. I know at one time they were trying to
Yeah,
get that as an automatic penalty or something at one time. I
yeah,
don't know if that ever carried over to the SEC or not, but
yeah. I don't think so.
No, how you gonna uh, police that? Like throwing the horns down? Like, listen, my opinion is
Mm-hmm.
always this: if you're going to do something, if you're going to have some kind of hand gesture, whatever it is, I think Texas does that. I think Texas Tech does. I think Texas Tech does that. But anyway, if you're going to do something like that, you can't get your feelings hurt when somebody mocks it. So
Yeah.
do it when you do it whenever you want. I'm sure it was horns up all the way to the Final Four of the football playoffs. But you can't get mad when someone decides they're going to make fun of you about it. So,
So
yeah,
uh,
you
you're the
got.
horn frogs. How you do the horn frogs down?
horn frogs. That's
How
that.
you do it? How you do it down? That's kind of hard.
Well,
Like
it's
this.
like some
Maybe
highlights.
maybe do it
You
like
see,
that. You just flip it over.
did you
How
see
about our
the end
boy
of
Eric
the?
Frederick, Stub? Eric Frederick get his 1,000th racer game this weekend.
Yeah, that's a good TCU reference. So Eric Frederick's actually he's married to my cousin.
Is he?
Yep.
I didn't know that. I
Yeah.
remember when he first came to Murray.
He's
He
been
took Alan Lawler, moved into the head role,
yeah.
head trainer, and Eric came in, and it's a guy at Murray State, Hartman. He was our basketball trainer, and he did his 1,000th Murray State game this weekend.
Yeah,
But he went to TCU.
he's been a fixture. Um, but anyway, so yeah, since so Cincinnati. So the question I have, and I don't know anything about the contracts or nothing. So I don't know how much Wes Miller has on his contract. I don't know what Pat Kelsey's contract was, but I wonder if there's any chance Pat Kelsey being a Cincinnati guy, if that job comes open, if he was to come back.
UC's broke. So right now, before March 31st, if they were to buy out, if they were to fire Wes Miller, they would owe him $11.1 million. UC don't
Man,
have money to buy him out. Just the pro- the guy that's cackling and rolling a blunt right now is John Brennan. So I mean, they ran him off because the AD that got rid of John Brennan is nothing more than a compliance officer. And
yeah,
he went out. His two big hires have been Scott Satterfield, who probably should be fired, and Wes Miller, who they can't fire. So some people, you look at Mick Cronin. Mick's going to talk himself out of LA. It seems like he's had enough of UCLA. So would he want to come back to Cincinnati? That could, I don't know, but I just don't see UC having enough money to pay that buyout. Now I think even after next year, it only goes down below 9. So, but that's it's getting pretty ugly for UC
Who
right now. But
was were we talking about that Stub, or was it somebody else that Kenny Payne is making more than Pat Kelsey?
I think that's somebody else, but yeah, that's he is like the best. Listen, the best job there is being a fired coach,
That's
and
right. Coach O said we talked about that too.
yeah, it's
$17 million. Which door you want me to go out of?
yeah, it's the best job there is. Um, yeah,
Speaking of U of L and UC, Coach Hartman I used to kind of gig him a little bit, but who did you hate worse, U of L or UC?
oh, UC, and it's not as bad. Like if UC played ISIS, I'd be on the front row with a turban on my head, freaking pounding a stick. I mean, that's where my hate was at one time.
wow.
You've mellowed.
I've said
Yeah.
I said that about Duke. I just, of course, I'm not from up here. I don't have that. I don't have that UC hate. I actually liked a lot of the old UC teams back in the day with Bob Huggins. I liked, they had Nick Van Exel and Danny Fortune and all those guys. There's a lot of players I liked. Who was the guy that Pete Michael was a guy I liked, and there was some guy that had just like crazy hops. Well, they had
Melvin
Reuben
Levitt.
Patterson,
yeah,
Melvin Levitt. That's it. The helicopter.
yeah.
So my hatred for UC began in December of 1983. My
Freeze
brother
out game, was it?
was in school at UC, and he got me tickets for Christmas for the UK Cincinnati game at Riverfront Coliseum. Christmas ticket. I was jacked. You know, place is 80% Kentucky fans. Tony Yates coaching the UC. They're terrible. You know, Kentucky goes to the Final Four that year. UC stalled the entire freaking game. Stalled. The score was like 10-6 at the half. Final score was 24-11. Some people say that's one of the main games that brought on
Shot clock.
the shot clock. I mean, UC's down 24-11 in a stall game. That's a lot of points. They were still stalling. Boring chant. I mean, ever since then, because Doug Schlomer graduated from Holmes in '78, went to UC. His claim to fame is I think at one time, I don't know if it's still the record, but he ended the longest game in NCAA history, nailing a jump shot in the seventh overtime to beat Bradley. That's about all. That's about all he ever did at UC. But I didn't mind UC, but man, after that game in '83, cheering
Wow.
ISIS. I was cheering ISIS if I had to.
I'd have been mad too. You pay good money to go to a game and it's 24-11. But anyway, well, guys, listen, I'm going to wrap this up. A good conversation. Hartman, thanks for being on in short notice, and hopefully, I'd like to have you on again at some point. Hanley, thank you for being on, and you guys have a good rest of the
Well,
week.
well, before we go, can we get a good Dave Henley and Valhalla story? We got any good
Yeah.
Valhalla
So
stories?
Oh,
tell us
I don't
about
know.
the celebrity that's been a jerk.
Um, oh, John Smoltz. He he came in one day. He's in a van with like 6 or 7 other guys, and they all got out under the right there in front of the pro shop, and we're at the bag drop. So we got all their clubs, like 7 or 8 bags of clubs out, and we're going to take them down, and they're all standing around watching us and say, this is my bag, because we're putting bag tags on them, and so they're all, hey, thank you, and a couple guys tip us a little bit. And John Smoltz just got out, walked straight in the clubhouse. He never said hi, bye, kiss my nothing. Never said a word. So, that's
But
on
Dave
him.
Mum, rest in peace. But Dave Mum used to talk about John Smoltz and Glavine golfing out of traditions, and
Yeah, he
he
used
said
to
that
tell me about that story.
did you get any Atlanta Braves tees from him?
I did not. That's Booger McFarland. They accidentally slipped out of his bag, and I couldn't catch him to give them back, so I just kept them.
Yeah, he wasn't going to pick
Booger.
him up. I mean, he was.
No,
He was
I saw his fingers, and they're
Booger
like,
Booger's got that Booger's got that pinky that goes like this far. He's Booger McFarland. Also, if you remember, he always said that he could beat Gary Player, or was it Gary Player or some old golfer? He said that he could beat. I think it was Gary Player.
What's
He
he got
said
a bull rushing?
he could beat him in golf. Uh,
he was pretty nice. I mean, we're not chums, but he was friendly. He was nice.
yeah. All right, guys, I'll let you go.
All
All
right, we'll
right.
see you there.
Thanks
See
for
you
the
next time.
invite.
Thank you.
See you.
See ya.
All right, bye bye.